In this video we're going to show you how to record a purchase invoice or expense or bill on your Freeagent account. This is when you receive a record from one of your suppliers where you owe money to them for something that you've bought from them. And we just basically keep tabs of how much we owe each supplier. So to do this, we move up to the Bills menu item at the top left, click on that. And then what that does is it takes you through to a page that lists out all your existing bills that you've already recorded on here. So you'll see there's 4 entries so far. To add a new one, we just simply scroll over to the right hand side and click Add New Bill. And then we're presented with a page where we just work our way through the fields and just fill in as much information as possible about this particular purchase that we've done. So, as we've mentioned in previous videos then, Freeagent likes to call suppliers and customers, they just refer to them as contacts and have them in one big pool. So you'll see that by default it's just bringing up my first contact, which is A Customer Limited. Which obviously we're not doing customers here, we're sorting out purchases. So I need to go ahead and choose the particular supplier. And in this example, let's say we've received some a hosting invoice for our website from the web developers. So I'll click on those. If they weren't on the list at this point, you could add them with this button rather than sort of going back to that section, setting them up and restarting this process. So very useful button that. The reference is just simply an invoice reference number. So could either be theirs, the web developer's reference, or yours if you have an internal referencing system to try and get back to your paper records. I'm just going to give it this reference number, for example. It then defaults to the day of entry as being the bill date. Obviously we may receive these invoices slightly delayed, particularly if they're still printed on paper and they have to come through the post. So let's say, for example, the date on the invoice isn't today, it was actually yesterday when we did that. And then because we've set this supplier up, we spent a bit of time setting them up, we've said that they typically offer us 30 days credit. So what it does is it adds 30 days onto the invoice date and say this is the due date. This is really useful because in the future, when you get closer to that due date, Freeagent will start highlighting items that are getting particularly, they're becoming close to being overdue, and so you might want to consider paying them. They will also highlight them when they have become overdue and sort of say, look, you've gone beyond your terms now. It's probably a good idea to get them paid to stay in the good books with your suppliers. So very useful and very worthwhile sort of setting up the payment terms in the particular supplier or customer, just to make life a little bit more easy and let Freeagent handle the reminders of when things are due. What we do then is we move on to the total value amount. So this is the gross amount on the invoice. So for example, if these guys had raised an invoice for £1,000 plus VAT, what we do is we enter 1,200 there as being the bottom figure, and then we choose the VAT rate that's on the invoice. Moving on, what we do is we select a category. So this is, for those of you who are familiar with bookkeeping, this is just the nominal choice, but yeah, category. And as we've said, this example, they're billing us for web hosting. So I'm just going to choose web hosting to where this gets paid to. And then a comment could be web hosting. So this will be sort of like the description of the transaction that's going to be in web hosting. Web hosting for September. And then if we need to, we can attach it to a particular project. So as mentioned before, Freeagent's very big on projects. It tends to be it started out as being for freelancers and that sort of type of business. So if we wanted to associate this with, say, a marketing project, we could do that at that point. It is a demo account, so I haven't got any of those set up at this point. And you could also tell it that this actually recurs every month, so it could help fill out that information in the future. And finally, one of the really simple features of Freeagent is the attachment. A lot of the other providers tend to ask you to connect your Dropbox account or Google account to them so that they can store images of the receipt. So in this instance, if we'd received this by paper and spent a couple of seconds just scanning it into maybe a PDF or a JPEG or something like that, we could then attach that file to this transaction. So if you think about it, further down the line, when you need some information about that invoice, rather than going rummaging through all the paper records and hopefully it's there, it's not been destroyed or lost or something like that, you could actually just click on the image for this transaction there and then and see the actual invoice. We haven't got a scan of that invoice at this time, but that's something that a lot of businesses do get in the routine of doing, because it does save them time in the future when they're referring back to the original invoice. So I'm going to click create and finish now, but if you were doing all your purchase invoices in batch, you could just click create and add another one at this point. I'll just restart the routine, but create and finish is fine for what we're doing. And then you'll see on our list of existing purchase invoices, you'll see that actually the one that we've just entered there appears at the top, and we can go back to it that way. So that will have all been filled out in your profit and loss. It will have added the debt onto your supplier ledger or your purchase ledger, and also allocated the £200 to your VAT account as well. So definitely worthwhile spending time filling out these if you're running a purchase ledger. A good alternative is, if you're not running a purchase ledger, is to just post these straight to wherever they need to be. So rather than allocating it to the web developers, we actually post the expense straight to hosting. But that'll be shown in a bit more detail in another video. So I hope that's helped, and thanks for watching.